All right, today we're putting on our detective hats. We are going to decode the technical signals of one of the market's hottest stocks, NVIDIA, ticker symbol NVDA. So let's just jump right into the investigation, shall we?
Look, the stock has had an absolutely incredible run, but now it seems to be paused, almost like it's catching its breath. And the big question on everyone's mind is, what happens next? Is it gearing up for another massive launch higher? Or is the pullback finally on the horizon? That's the mystery we're going to try to solve today.
But before we start digging for clues, we have to understand the scene of the crime, so to speak. Let's get the lay of the land and take a quick look at NVIDIA's recent and pretty wild performance.
And wow, what a ride it's been. You look back at June, the stock was trading around 157, then boom, it just rockets all the way up to a high of 184 in mid-September. But since hitting that peak, the action has kind of flattened out. It's just been moving sideways. This is what analysts call a consolidation phase, where the stock is basically just trading back and forth inside a range.
Okay, now for the main event. We're going to sift through the data and decode these technical indicators. I want you to think of these as the fingerprints, the DNA evidence, the clues that can help us figure out where this stock might be headed next. First up on our list, moving averages. Now, a really simple way to think about these is as the stock's cruising speed over different time periods. So if the current price is moving faster than its average speed lately, well, that's generally a pretty good sign of strength.
And when we look at the data for NVIDIA, what do we see? Its current price is trading above its short-term 5-day average, its medium-term 50-day, and its long-term 200-day average. This is a classic bullish signal. It confirms that across multiple timeframes, that underlying trend is definitely strong.
Our next clue is the MACD. Now, I know it sounds super complicated, but it's really just a momentum catcher. It just tracks the relationship between two different moving averages to tell us if that bullish or bearish energy is picking up steam.
For NVIDIA, that MACD reading is 0.8607. Now, because this number is positive and it's above what's called its signal line, it's basically screaming that upward or bullish momentum is still in control. So that's another check in the bullish column. Okay, our next tool is the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. Think of this one like a pressure gauge. It tells us if a stock's price has moved too far, too fast. Maybe it's gotten overbought and needs to cool down, or it's oversold and it's due for a bounce.
NVIDIA's RSI is sitting at 51.67. Now, anything between 30 and 70 is considered pretty neutral. So this tells us the stock isn't really overextended in either direction. It's got plenty of room to run higher, but it also has space to fall. It's balanced.
So let's step back for a second and look at our evidence board. We've got the MACD, which we just talked about, flashing bullish. And as you can see here, other key indicators like the Arun and the CCI are also pointing to bullish momentum. The only neutral one is the RSI. So, yeah, the balance of evidence here is clearly leaning positive.
This brings us to the next part of our investigation, the battleground. Because in the stock market, there's a battle fought every single day between the buyers and the sellers. And it happens at these key price levels called support and resistance.
The easiest way to think about it is like this. Support, which is down around 177.80, that's the floor. That's where buyers tend to show up and say, nope, not going any lower. Then you have resistance, up around 184.55. That's the ceiling, where sellers usually step in and start taking profits. Right now, NVIDIA is kind of pinned right between this floor and this ceiling. But how much does the stock typically move inside this little box? To answer that, we look at something called the ATR, or Average True Range. It's just a fancy way of measuring the stock's daily volatility, its typical price swing. For NVIDIA, that number is about $5.27. This just gives us a concrete idea of what a normal day of trading looks like for the stock. It helps us figure out if a move is actually significant or if it's just the usual daily noise. Okay, we've gathered all our clues. We've got the bullish trend, the positive momentum, that neutral RSI, and we've mapped out the key battleground levels. Now it's time to put it all together and outline 3 possible futures for NVIDIA. So, scenario 1, the bullish breakout. The price just smashes right through that 184.55 ceiling, and that would likely signal the uptrend is back on. Scenario 2, neutral consolidation. The stock just keeps bouncing between the floor and the ceiling, basically waiting for some kind of news or catalyst. And then there's scenario 3, the bearish breakdown. The price falls right through that 177.80 support floor, which would suggest a deeper pullback could be coming. So after weighing all this evidence, what's the final verdict? Let's try and synthesize all these clues into one clear takeaway.
So here's the bottom line, what this really means for you. The big picture trend, it's still positive. But right now, the stock's just in a holding pattern. So if you're a short-term trader, this means patience is everything. You wait for the stock to pick a direction. But if you're a long-term investor, you might just see this sideways action as a healthy pause and a much larger uptrend.
Ultimately, it really does come down to this. The analysis concludes that the most important thing for anyone watching NVIDIA right now is to keep a really close eye on those two key levels we talked about, that floor and that ceiling. The stock's next big move is almost certainly going to be revealed when it finally breaks out of that range.
And there you have it. All the clues are on the table, the battle lines are drawn, and the potential scenarios are set. The data gives us the probabilities, but it's the market that will give us the final answer. The only question that's left is, which one of these futures is going to unfold?